Hey guys, it's Dan here with a new video, and today we're going to be talking about modifying these types of things. So these suits are super stretchy. You can get them online. They can range from prices of cheap to expensive. We're going to talk about modifying the ones that are more on the cheap side, not necessarily the really cheap ones. Those are really just crap quality. So you want to get one that's at least a little bit decent quality, but they don't fit perfectly sometimes, and they have accessories you can add to make them more accurate. So let's get into how to do that. These gloves, usually on the end, sometimes people have fingers that are different sizes, and they thankfully are made bigger usually than what my hands fit. So let's flip this glove inside out and show you how you can make it so it fits your hand. So if you shake it, alright, so we have these fingers. If you look up really close to the seams, there's stitches, and the stitch goes down across one and then up. If you ever want to get a sewing machine, you're going to use straight stitching. Don't worry that it's stretch material. When it's a glove and you're doing straight stitching on a glove, it's totally fine with this kind of stuff. But just make sure when you're doing this, you're going to do one straight stitch across. So if you're using the sewing machine, it goes flip it, boop, and then flip it. Because if you do a little V, it's going to stretch the material and look weird, and it's not going to look right. So that's one tip. So you would place your hand in here. Let's do this backwards, tell you what we're doing after we tell you what we're doing. So you place your hand into it, and you size it up. You're going to see where all the stuff is. You're going to trace it out with like a pencil or like a chalk or a marker or something like that. And when you get the fingertip to the right length, I hope you can see I followed these lines, and I just sewed another line on top and then snipped off the rest. After all that, you pull it up. All the fingers slide into place, and it all fits. You can do similar things with if arms are too fat. If it's too tight, you probably can't really fix it without adding more cloth, which is a whole nightmare in and of itself. So probably, if you're worried about it, order one size larger than you want. But usually the sizes you can read in the comments on if they're accurate or not. Alright, so when you're doing that though, you want to use a totally different kind of stitch. So let's look at a different seam to show you how to do that. Okay, so unlike the glove, the rest of the bodysuit stretches a lot more than what the hand makes it go through. And professional machines have sergers. If you're doing this by yourself, you have no clue what you're doing. You don't know what a serger is, and you probably are just using a regular sewing machine if you're thinking about doing this. You want to use a zigzag stitch. You want to make it match visually about the same distance that the serger is doing on the professional ones. So you just take some test cloth, sew it a couple times until the width and the spacing looks about the same. Then you're going to alter it. I'm not going to tell you how to alter everything about it. Like you can like put it on your arm, pull it a little tight if it's super baggy, and draw like it chalk on there. Usually if you do it inside out, you don't see the chalk later because you can wash it, or it's going to be inside out, so it's going to be on the inside of the cloth. So that's a couple tips. Other things you can do. So aside from altering the shape and size, these things usually don't have hard things on them. So you remember my past video, I made the time travel GPS watch that Tony Stark made. This thing, I glued a magnet to the bottom of it. No, I glued a washer to the bottom of it, and then I put a soda magnet inside of this wrist strap. So that way I can put this on, slide my hand into the suit, and then when my hand's in the suit, it attaches like that. And that's a great way to add hard things. I'll show you all this stuff later. So that's a great way to add hard things if you don't want to commit to ruining the suit accidentally by like poking holes into it or trying to figure out how to sew something hard onto something that stretches. So we could also do it for in the front here. He has a little V right here and little pieces. You could like 3D print or fabricate it any way you want, like sculpt it out of clay. The pieces of metal, and then magnet them with a magnet on the inside, and then it holds really well. It holds a lot stronger than you'd think, especially if you use neodymium. I used a magnet from a hard drive for this, So those are free if you find those just laying on the ground. Other things. Usually when you're walking around and you have these little floppy doppy socks pretty much on, you're gonna have to wear shoes. But if your cosplay doesn't have shoes over it, you're gonna have to customize the bottoms. So as you can see on this, I have soles glued to the bottom and it looks like something's on the inside. So I followed a couple tutorials and found with trial and error that those really don't work out as well as I would have hoped. If you just glue the soles on the bottom, you're gonna be walking around and they're gonna be like slipping all over the place. You're gonna be able to walk pretty much at a snail's pace. It's not gonna be fun. So you want something rigid on the inside. I took these women's shoes, which are a size 8. I usually wear a size 11 in women's. So they were big enough to fit the exact shape of my foot, but the rest of the cloth wouldn't wrap over my foot, right? So the rubber matches my foot, but the cloth didn't. So when I glued these on, I tested it out, didn't really like it, and didn't work out well. So I took the rest of the shoe. I think I have video footage. If I don't, it's not inserted. If it is, it's inserted here.
At Walmart, I found these shoes. These obviously aren't the shoe anymore, but I found these for about $3, and I took the soles off and put them on. They're all glued on and it works well, but the inside needs more support, so I took the rest of this. This was a size 8 in women's. I think I would wear a size 11, so the sole was meant to match my foot. So if you see right here, the toes would be poking out. So if you're going to do this and you have a sole that matches your foot, the shoe is probably going to be too small, just an FYI. So for the inside support, I sewed denim as that. I placed this over my foot, traced it onto some denim, and then just sewed it up. Give yourself a little bit of seam allowance, so that way you have some room. And this back curve, you can sort of just fold some pleats in to make it fit. So there's 2 pleats right there. If you look in here, I put some elastic in there. I made it so that way it would pull tight over my foot, but not too tight, so that way it's still comfortable but holds on. The reason the seams look weird on the outside is because I'm going to plan on glue this onto the inside. And when you look in, well, you probably won't be able to look in because there's going to be an entire leg covering this, but when you look in, you'll see a better seam. So keep that in mind if you really worry about it. I'm going to try putting an insole in here, putting my foot in, and then putting glue on the bottom, and then inserting my foot into it with the leg like rolled up already. On this one, we have the thing taped in temporarily, just pretend like we're gluing it in. You can see it looks more like a shoe form. This one looks more like a foot. Obviously, that one doesn't have it on there. They both have the soles. This one jiggles and wiggles and sort of awkward. This one is a lot more sturdy. Having the heel locked in is really good. And I think I'm gonna glue this on. So I would recommend maybe just getting your own shoe that fits your foot, cutting the cloth here and gluing it on top instead of doing all this. But since I already glued the soles on and it's already attached, this is the second best, I would assume. I think this is gonna be good for walking. It's gonna be fine. I wouldn't try running in this. I'll tell you if I feel like I'm able to run later, but I'm pretty sure this is gonna be a lot better for walking. And this is just probably a no-go for anyone. So probably don't just glue soles on only. It's not secure.
And all this is using barge contact cement. It's really strong and it's made for shoes. So it's perfect for this. So then I put my foot in, and usually you want to have 2 surfaces that are dry, but with it being inside of a huge leg and it pulled back, it's sort of awkward to get the timing right and it would just stick on you. So I cheated a little bit and put just the glue on to the cloth, slid my foot in as quickly as I could, wearing a sock so it doesn't stick, to my foot accidentally. It didn't stick to the sock at all, so it was fine. And then held it in there for 10-15 minutes, let everything cure up, slid my foot out, and it is securely in there. So there's the inside of the shoe, all sewn up, taking the laces out, so it's just like a little shoe. It has a little bit of elastic in there, so it wraps around my foot. The thing that makes it really good is that the back of the heel catches your foot and the top of your foot from the elastic. So that way it like grabs on and gives you something for your foot to register to. The front of the shoe it's cut out still. It's not attached to anything. I don't think it's gonna be a problem for my toes not to activate against any cloth, because I've had loose shoes for my whole life on the front half of my toes because I have wide feet, and generally my toes don't touch the front of the shoe anyways, and that does fine. So I'm assuming that this is gonna be fine. I walked around and it was 1,000 times better than having nothing on the inside. So those are great ways to make these better. So we can have shoes on the inside so you don't have to walk around in socks. We can have hard accessories. We can make it close tighter onto our bodies, and we can make our hands fit better into it. And one last thing is you want to worry about something you're wearing underneath it, because with these things, if you've seen some people wearing them, it's totally fine if they want it to be like this, but you can see everything. Not necessarily see-through, like the fabric's not see-through if it's good quality, but shapes. So wear underclothes that give you a shape that you want to show off. Just saying. If you're wearing just regular underwear, they're going to be able to see the lines to it, and they're going to be able to see the shape of everything. If you're wearing shorts that are underneath it that like shape differently and make everything look better, that's probably something you want to go for. So that's an idea to think about. And also one last thing I do for the zipper, I'm usually by myself, so I have this string. I tie it so it's long enough for my arm to reach it at any length, so I can hold it around and then zip up the zipper. And then you can just like tuck it in. You have to find it later. It's a little complicated, but it's a lot easier than trying to do it without a string on there. So I hope all those tips helped, and I will get into this, dress up into it, and put on the helmet so you guys can see the full cosplay. And hopefully later I'll try to remake this entire suit out of the screen accurate shapes, dimensions, and cloth and all that. Maybe, hopefully, possibly. If not, but then I'm going to also try to design the other harder parts and attach them to that suit. The reason it's not hard attached is because I want to use this on the final one also. So look forward to stuff like that. You can check videos over here. You can click some links over here, especially if you want to support me. And I will see you guys in the next video.